Welcome everyone. This is your own channel Learner's Saga. In this video, we will discuss The Pros, The Fun They Had by Isaac Asimov. Before starting, I like to request you to press the like button and subscribe the channel if you are new, and also to comment and share the video. So without wasting any time, let's begin. The Fun They Had by Isaac Asimov. Isaac Asimov was a prolific Russian-born American writer, and he was well known for his science fiction. Science fiction. The term is very much associated with the great writer H.G. Wells. H.G. Wells, he was the pioneer of science fiction. Science fiction is a particular type of novel or short drama or novelette, you may say, where the science plays a very important role. But when the most striking thing is that when the writer writes a science fiction, it's all about fiction. That means fictitious. They are not real, but they are related to science, such as H.G. Wells' The Invisible Man, it's a science fiction, The Time Machine, The First Man in the Moon. So, science fiction, the term is very much associated with H.G. Wells, and he is called the father of science fiction. So, here also, Isaac Asimov, who was born in 1920, he also believed in writing science fiction. And the present story, The Fun They Had, also tells us an incident about the future generation. And it's the future generation that they are thinking of their ancestors, their predecessors, you may say, who had the fun. That's why the fun they had. So they means the future generation is thinking about their ancestors. So their ancestors are they had the fun. How they had the fun? We will read it, but it's all about the fun was about school related topics. The school, the teachers, everything was fun for the future generation's ancestors. So let's start. Margie even wrote about it that night in her diary. So there is a character, her name is Margie. Margie wrote about it. It means, we will see. That night in her diary, on page headed 17th May 2157. So you can see the time, the date rather, is given of 2157. Now it's 2021. So it's all about the future happening. As it is said, the science fiction. So Margie wrote in her diary, "Today Tommy found a real book." So what was it? It was a real book. Margie wrote about an incident on 17th May 2157. That's today Tommy, his brother, found a real book. A real book. See the word real here. Why real? Actually, the word real, according to them, are in manuscript form or in printed form. That means Tommy and Margie, who belongs from the future generation, they are not used to. They use computers and other electronic gadgets. That's why they call the real book. They call the book of their predecessors a real book. It was a very old book. Margie's grandfather once said that when he was a little boy, see, Margie's grandfather told that when the grandfather was a little boy, Margie's grandfather when he was a little boy, then his grandfather, that means Margie's grandfather's grandfather, told him that there was a time when all stories were printed on paper. So you can see that the book was very old, and Margie's grandfather once told her that when he was a little boy, then his grandfather, Margie's grandfather's grandfather, told him that there was a time when all stories were printed on paper. That's why it's called real book. It is about paper. They turned the pages, they means Margie's grandfather's grandfather. They turned the pages which were yellow and crinkly. So crinkly means wrinkled, you may say. Although it is given in your book that crinkly means with many folds or lines. But in short we may say crinkly means wrinkled. And it was awfully funny. Awfully. Why awfully? Because awfully means extremely funny. And it appeared to them extremely funny because they are not used to, they use modern day technologies, electronic gadgets. That's why the real book that is about paper, it appeared to them extremely funny. To read words that stood still instead of moving. Again, here is the explanation why it appeared to them funny. Because the words stood still instead of moving way they were supposed to, as they read in some electronic gadgets, maybe mobile, computer, or any other kind of electronic gadgets. The words move, but while their ancestors, that means Margie's grandfather's generation, when they used to read, they read with paper. That's why they were all printed on a screen, you know. So as it is for them, they see the whole chapters on a screen and they move. But in case of their generation, their predecessors generations, it was different. They did not move, rather they remained at the same place. And then when they turned back to the page before, it had the same words on it that it had when they read it the first time. Another explanation that is enough to be called the real book a funny one. That's when they turn back to the page before. That means after reading the story, when they turn the page before, it had the same words on it. You can understand because it was printed, the words were printed that it had when they read it the first time. Yes, it didn't move till then, and we can understand because of its printed form. "Gee," said Tommy, "what a waste." So Tommy, the boy, he said "gee." What "gee" is an exclamation, you may say, showing his disdain, showing his contempt. What a waste. Waste means the waste of pages, the waste of energy, etc. When you are through with the book, you just throw it away. And he is saying to Margie probably that when you are through with the book, you just throw it away because according to Tommy, it's not quite useful. It's a waste. I guess our television screen must have had a million books on it and it's good for plenty more. He says that their television screen have the capability of a million books on it. It can store a million books and more than that. So according to him, the real book that their predecessors or ancestors used to read were waste. I wouldn't throw it away, and I wouldn't throw it away. It here suggests their television screen. So Tommy wouldn't throw the television screen away as he is very much disdainful about the printed forms of books. Same with mine, said Margie. Margie, the sister, she also said, same with mine. She was also in the same opinion. She was 11 and hadn't seen as many telebooks as Tommy had. So she was a little girl of 11 and Tommy had seen more telebooks than her. He was 13, that means Tommy was 13. So Margie was 11 and Tommy was 13. She said, where did you find it? Now she asked the question to Tommy, where did he find that? In my house, he pointed without looking because he was busy reading. Okay, so without looking at Margie, he answered that he got that in his house and it was in the attic. Attic means loft, you may say. L-O-F-T, loft. Or it is given here, attic means a space just below the roof used as a storeroom. So attic means a loft, you may say, in a single word, L-O-F-T, loft. Or you can say, as it is given here, a space just below the roof used as a storeroom. That means a room at the top of a building. What's it about? School. So on being asked what's it about, the answer is it's about school. Margie was scornful. School? What's there to write about school? I hate school. Margie always hated school, but now she hated it more than ever. Okay, so Margie was always scornful about school. She had no love with school. And why she hated it most? Because the mechanical teacher, you can see the mechanical teacher, because they are from the future generation, they don't have the teacher like we are having now as in the form of human beings. So their teachers are mechanical, robots. The mechanical teacher had been giving her test after test in geography, and she had been doing worse and worse until her mother had shaken her head sorrowfully and sent for the county inspector. So that's why she hated the school most. Why? The mechanical teacher, he had been giving her test after test in geography, and her performance were becoming worse. It was becoming worse, and her mother was very much disappointed with that and called for the county inspector. Who was a county inspector? Actually, he is to look after the mechanical teacher, the robot. He was a round little man with a red face and a whole box of tools with dials and wires. Now we can see, as the county inspector, we may say that he is a mechanic. He repairs the robot, the mechanical teacher. So with him there is a box of tools, and there are so many dials. Dial means instruments with round shape, and wires. He smiled at Margie and gave her an apple. So at first he gave her an apple, then took the teacher apart. The teacher means the mechanical teacher, the robot. Margie had hoped he wouldn't know how to put it together again. Yes, so very interesting here. Margie, she hated the school most. That's why she hoped that he wouldn't know how to put it together again. That means he wished so that the mechanical teacher may not find it quite easy to put it together again. But he knew how. All right. And after an hour or so, there it was again, large and black and ugly, with a big screen on which the lessons were shown and the questions were asked. But her wishes were not fulfilled. The county inspector repaired the machine, the mechanical teacher, very well. And after an hour or so means like that, an hour or maybe two or so. So after 1 hour or so, the mechanical teacher was again ready. It was a large, black and ugly thing with a big screen on which all the lessons were shown. And the questions also were asked. That wasn't so bad. The part Margie hated most was the slot where she had to put homework. So Margie had some special inclination or inclination in the negative sense, that she hated one of the slots very much. What's that? It was the particular slot where she had to put her homework and test papers. So she disliked this idea of providing homeworks and test papers. She always had to write them out in a punch code. They made her learn when she was 6 years old, and the mechanical teacher calculated the marks in no time. So it has a particular system. It was of writing them in a punch code, and she learned that art when she was a mere girl of 6. After punching the code and writing them in proper way, the mechanical teacher used to calculate, and it took no time. Within a fraction of a second, the mechanical teacher calculated the marks that Margie obtained. So you can see that it's about the future generation. The two students, Margie and Tommy, they were having a discussion with the real book, that is the printed form that we are now using. But as they are from the future generation, they are talking about their predecessors' way of reading. So students, up to this in this video. In the next video, we will discuss the remaining portion. So till then, goodbye.